the Artemis from Dreadbox, 6-voice analog synthesizer from the Greek manufacturer. It follows the same naming conventions as some of their previous synthesizers, which are named after gods and goddesses. Nice sort of mythological link. This Artemis is the goddess of the hunt and the wild, and is fiercely protective. Woe betide anyone who messes with her and you know, gets her wrath. I'm not entirely sure how that links to a synthesizer and what it might do if you mistreat it, but I hate to find out. So the Artemis is a kind of combination of maybe another couple of synthesizers from Dreadbox. Most similarities, I think, are with the Typhon, which I have here. You can see that we've got a similar sort of wave morphing knob, which morphs between two sets of oscillators. We've got the same kind of principle here. There are two oscillators on here. We've also got the faders, which are in the Typhon, are used to access envelopes and all sorts of other stuff. Certainly the Typhon has much more front panel control, and we've got an envelope which is switched between VCA and VCF, and we've got the same faders which control the onboard Sinevibe effects, which you get on the Typhon. The other similarities, I guess, are to the Nymphes, which is a 6-voice analog, but this guy has a lot more shift controls. You can see there's a table you have to look up. It's quite, although it was nice and compact and affordable, it was actually quite sort of stumping to use. It took quite a long time. The Artemis has much more front panel control and is much better in terms of just getting your hands in and using it as a synthesizer. There is some level of menu. We've got the same sort of menu system. This is a rotary press encoder. A lot of these parameters, of which there are not a huge amount, they apply on a per patch basis, things like mod matrix and filter drive, and then there are also a bunch of global parameters which you could set up. The faders then will, if we go to the effects, we've got 4 effects groups. These are provided by Sinevibes again, a distortion, modulation, delay and reverb. There are quite a lot of different algorithms in here, so you get a decent number of effects, and they integrate really nicely with the synthesis engine. So it's no secret I'm a big fan of the Dreadbox sounds. I think they do a really good sound, and what I've been hearing about this synthesizer are good things. So let's dive in and take a look. So before we go so much further, I just want to tell you a bit about the construction. Solid metal construction. Knobs and buttons feel pretty good. Sliders, you're going to get a bit of wibble on them. Feels all pretty good. I think Lootpop mentioned in his review that the bottom row of this little LCD here just gets a little bit obscured when you're viewing it from an angle, but it's not the end of the world. We've got MIDI in and MIDI out, USB for MIDI and firmware updates, headphone output, stereo output, and a 15-volt power supply, which it comes with, and an on-off switch. That's pretty much it. So just want to let you know, I'll be doing some decent samples for this. You can find them over at our Patreon, along with many other benefits. Well worth checking out. The decent sampler instruments will be made with the new UI that we've made with Venus Theory, who's done a great job adding extra synthesis functions. So do check them out. So let's start with a default patch. I've modified it slightly. Actually, you've got a bit too much release for my liking on the default. So this is just a regular sawtooth. It's got really good tracking. We can go round into square. See, the fundamental and the frequency spread is really good. Square wave, we've got pulse width. We can go right through to sort of skinny, almost disappearing, and modulate that. This is modulating the pulse wave. Take that down. And then go right round to the next wave, which is triangle, because there are 3 waves per oscillator. There are different combinations depending on where this dial is set. And that's got a really nice low fundamental. Turning it this way, we've got the subwave, which I think is a square wave, so that sounds like it's an octave below. Let's just bring the second oscillator in. I'll get that to a midpoint, which is there. We can detune them. That's 2 squares, 2 sawteeth. And we've also got the spread function, which throws the voices left and right, depending on how far we've got this round. If we tune. Actually, if we just want to hear the subwave, I figured out how to do it. We set the oscillator wave to square, bring the pulse width up to full. So we're basically disappearing that, and then all we're hearing is the subwave. But it only works in square wave, and the same we can do with noise as well. We just want to hear noise. Anyway, that's by the by. So let's bring the second oscillator in. So we can tune them and then blend them how we want. We've also got a sub-oscillator on the second oscillator too. So if we tune that a couple of octaves up, we end up with 4 octaves effectively. And if we throw the spread out, we can have that alternate voices going out as far, as wide as we want, depending on how far this is. And then modulating the wave gets some quite interesting tonal characteristics. Very nice. We can also, if we go to triangle wave on both, we can modulate FM VCO1 with VCO2. Take the spread down. This is through 0, so I can get some quite interesting wave sounds. I'm modulating the wave. Interesting sounds there. And there's also, I forgot to mention, if we go to 2 squares, go to oscillator sync, listen to VCO2. Got quite a nice sync. Now we've got the filter. The filter is a 24 dB 4-pole self-resonant. Got a nice creamy sound. Bring the resonance up. You can see that there is a bit of bass drop off, but it's got those lovely Dreadbox harmonics that I'm very fond of. But we can change stuff with that. So if I just bring this up and we go to menu, we've got the drive for the filter, so we can set that off, which kind of changes the characteristic of the resonance and the bass roll-off. Low, which we've heard, mid, which means that there's less bass compensation, but the quality of the resonance changes, and then high, which keeps all the bass in, again, sort of changes the vibe. There is a 2 dB filter, a 2-pole filter, which I quite like. It's quite creamy. It's got a bit more of a, dare I say it, sing-song harmonic. Do quite like that. And this is VCF is per voice, so this will just trigger depending on what we've got it set to. We've got obviously envelope depth, but there's also the possibility to modulate the filter frequency from VCO2. So if I bring that, into, I can get it to talk a bit. What we can't do is turn these down and have the filter tracking just track the filter and use it as a filter voice. So the closest I could get was to maybe go both to square. Guess we take it out, take the full pulse width, get the keyboard tracking going. pretty good over multiple octaves. And then of course we've got this high pass filter, which is global, not per voice, but it adds some really nice harmonics in there. Let's put a bit of reverb on that. We can get some interesting sort of peaks between the resonance of the high pass and the resonance of the low pass, but we can get some absolutely massive thunder just by, let's go down low. Some big harmonics down there, really nice. Okay, this next section I've plugged in the Osmos, which is, as you know, an MPE enabled keybed, because the Artemis can actually read or respond to MPE. So I've got this patch here, which is, lots of the sounds of the Artemis are sort of focused around atmospherics and pads, because I've got this amazing effects engine in, and I thought I'd try and make something kind of a bit pingy and snappy. So this guy is, I haven't named it. You can actually name the presets now in the new firmware update. I haven't got around to naming this one, but it's just got a really pingy envelope. So you might think it's mono, but it's actually polyphonic. So what I've also mapped in here is, if I just come to this shot again, you'll be able to see. So I've got the velocity is actually mapped to envelope depth, which I've done in the mod matrix. I'll just bring the overlay up. Mod matrix is here. The mod matrix actually is, it's sort of, they don't make much of a thing about it, but actually it's quite powerful. So velocity, if I wanted to add something to this, I just press add, I move the fader in positive or negative, and then I'm done. I won't do that because the only thing I can't do is see what's already assigned, and I don't want to kind of mess this patch up. So if I just play, but I've also, if I press, I've got Poly Aftertouch assigned, overlay up, which is CC74. That's assigned to the mod depth, the reverb depth and the delay depth, but also the filter frequency modulation. So as I press, I'm basically adding this, and I've mapped that, but I'm also bringing up the reverb and the delay depth. And we can do that if I just go to, let's just add, say, mod wheel. I'm just going to go add, and I'm going to go to reverb, and then I can move this fader, say, a positive amount. So now I'm bringing in the mod wheel. You'll have to take my word for it, and that is increasing the amount of reverb depth. But I've also got it happening on the Poly Aftertouch as well. Each of these, velocity, aftertouch, mod wheel, CC74, key track, all have up to 5 mod slots. So we can have up to 5. You can't unfortunately see those assignments. You can only add them and clear them, which is a little bit slow, but that's okay. But this is, I just thought this was quite a nice sound, and this is actually in poly. So we've got multiple modes. So this is poly. We can change to tri, which is basically 2 voices. You can play up to 3 notes. Then we've got duo, which is 2 notes with 3 voices each. And then we've got unison, which is all of them. This patch is probably not the best for that one. I've got another patch here, which I've set to unison, which is absolutely monstrous. Check this out. It's a... And I've got Poly Aftertouch, which is bringing in the frequency amount here. So I'm effectively, so if I'm modulating oscillator 1 by this, I'm just listening to that. adding filter depth as well. And this has got no effects. So I think it's got a little bit of reverb. If I just come back here, take the reverb off, there's nothing else is going on here. You can see, and these effects are great, but all this distortion and the drive is just coming from that cross modulation, and it's just... I'll turn that down. And I've got the ability to wiggle that note as well, which I should show you. The aftertouch is, if we go to, this is a global setting. So if we go to MPE setup, I've got the MPE zone lower, a number of channels, MPE pitch wheel, I've got that set to 15, but I can turn that right up to 96, which will give me much more. It sounds like about a fifth or something. It's a bit too much for me. I'll just take that back down because it is a global setting. I've got some other pads in here, patches. I actually named some of these because you can name these. This one is a bit more sort of what you might expect. I'm using that lovely reverb, and I'm able to what I'm doing with this is I am using the pressure to modulate between these two oscillators. So I'm starting off with just VCO1. Let's just take the reverb down, you might be able to hear it. So each note will respond using CC74. So the MPE is actually quite nicely implemented. Let's get another couple of patches. This is another one. This is a brass type sound. I'll sample some of these and you can have them as a decent sampler. So this, I'm using velocity. It's got quite a slow envelope. And the aftertouch is now bringing in the sub-oscillator per note via MPE. Obviously I could use aftertouch to do that globally, but I like the fact that I can use MPE for this. But I've also got, just take that down a tad, I've got the velocity mapping to negative attack. So I've got a real response there, and if we look, I think I've got a little bit of distortion. The mix is high on this one, but it's actually just a little bit of distortion. See what we've got. I'm in, the drive mode is low. It's just a lovely... Back to my distortion. I can get a lot of burn if I really want it, and there are quite a lot. A lot of different distortion algorithms, and with all of these effects, there's lots of great. We'll get onto that in a little bit. We did get a question in via our Patreon pre-review video, and it was really about the sort of the common heritage. And it turns out that the oscillators are common to Nymphes and Murmux as well, so they are pretty much identical. In terms of filter, they tell us that the filter is closer to the older version of Erebus, which is that really sort of sweet spot for me. Really nice when they were doing through-hole stuff. So just wanted to let you know about that. Okay, so let's check the LFOs. We've got 2 LFOs, 1 per voice. So I guess that makes them 12 LFOs altogether. Let's just have a listen. So we've got this nice 50% square wave. Bring the filter down. Let's go through these waves. We've got sine, triangle, saw, ramp, square, random, and an envelope, which is a single cycle, which is the speed is determined by the rate, and then negative envelope as well. Let's just go with sine. We can go up to 25 Hertz, which is a bit on the slow side, I suppose, but it's kind of interesting. We can route to VCO, pitch 1 or 1 and 2, or VCF here. And then LFO2 is the wave and the pulse width. Pulse width is only modulated on VCO1 via this. So the routing is slightly limited. It'd be nice to see some more destinations, maybe if there was a sort of mod matrix additions in here. Maybe that's something that can happen a little bit later on. So let's get back. We can also cross-modulate the rate of LFO1 from LFO2, giving us some sort of additional randomization. And then if we go back to LFO1 and we'll listen to, let's go to square again. Take the mod down. You can hear square wave. On some synths, different waves have different behaviours. This is all bipolar. It would be nice if this could actually be unipolar on the square wave, because I quite like to have a fixed pitch, so you know, a fifth or a third or whatever, just have it fixed. But at the moment, this sort of runs either side of the centre line, so it makes it harder to do that because we don't have that sort of very specific tuning of either oscillator. Apart from when we get to the top, when we get 2 octaves. Let's get that into key mode. Which is quite nice. I mean, I'd really like to be able to modulate the pitch of those LFOs from this one as well, to have it wobbling around that centre pitch, sort of. Sort of like this, which I can't do, but again, it'd be nice to have more destination. But we can get some nice sounds. This square wave, actually I created a patch here which was really nice, which is using a very fast square wave with that 2 octave range. And again, that 2-pole filter, and I'm using the granular reverb in this. Lovely. Very easy to get lost once again. Let's get back to the envelopes now and check them out. First envelope is routed to the filter. Nice and snappy. Unfortunately, we can't loop these envelopes. It would be kind of nice if we could. And then we've got the VC envelope. I mean, it's pretty basic there. There is no other sort of routing. I mean, we can mod the kind of individual ADSR elements of this via the mod matrix and the existing routes, but that's basically it. Would nice to have been to see looping. And while we're at it, actually, look, we've got these 5 faders here. So if I'm in this mode, these faders do nothing, but it would be really nice if maybe there was an auxiliary envelope 3, that you could run on some of these faders, or indeed if when we're editing the envelopes we see some kind of a shape here. I mean, I guess this requires quite a lot of UI rewrite, but it feels like this display and these faders could have more functions when they're not being sort of utilised. So let's take a look at the effects, because the effects are really integrated into this instrument. The thing that's really nice about it is Sinevibes have been working with Dreadbox for a while, so I think they sort of know how to get the most out of their matchings with algorithms to the electronics of the Artemis and indeed other Dreadbox stuff. So let's just go to this. This is just a simple sort of filter-ish sort of sound. So let's start with the distortion. So many different sorts of distortion. If I go this way, I mean, whoa! I mean, there's loads of different ones. If we just mess around with this exponential a little bit, we can hear that we've got some really nice sample rate reductions as well, which can sort of make it talk a little bit as well. So lots of things to play with there. And remember, we can modulate these parameters, the effects parameters, via the mod matrix. Unfortunately, not via other things like LFOs and envelopes, which would be amazing, but at least we've got that. So we'll take that down a bit. Let's go. We've also got mod. Let's go to delay. I've got a very short delay here. And I've got the mod wheel modulating the left and right, but we don't have to have this extreme stuff. We can have all the kind of standard things, ping pong, BBD delay, which is really nice, and repeater. There's not so many delays, but there's just some nice... Just being able to modulate some of these is kind of pretty cool, but again, it'd be nice to be using this kind of stuff. Then we've got, let's see, I've got another couple of patches here. Let's go up to this one. This is just a regular sort of brassy pad, perhaps a bit too much release. So I've got a bit of distortion on this, which is just more of a burn. Don't need that crazy stuff. Really nice. Let's get some modulations in here. Quite a lot of modulation stuff too. Some nice choruses, ensemble, tape chorus. I've got these set to sort of quite extreme setting. Get that real jet if you want it, and a whole bunch of these. And a pitch shifter. Loads of that stuff. Then we get onto the reverb. Reverbs are really nice in here. We've got small, medium and large. We'll start with large. Just sounds great. I really like the sound of this. Be nice to be able to modulate the pre-delay of this. In fact, why not? Let's do that. We'll just get the mod wheel and add, then go to reverb and modulate the pre-delay by just a little bit, just to give us a bit of wonk. And then we can come. If that was done by an LFO, that would be really nice as well. I mean, massive reverb, okay. And then cloud, which is like this kind of granular reverb. It's just delightful. Grain size, and then of course good old shimmer, and we can take that down to a minus octave shimmer as well, which reminds me a little bit of the Korg NTS and the Minilog XD, that sort of submarine I think it was called. Beautiful. So the effects in here, I mean, I like what Sinevibes have done. They've integrated them nicely. There's a very broad range. I mean, it's no surprise that it's quite easy to get into massive ambient pads, but it'll do some really nice sort of pingy short reflections and short delays. There's a lot of stuff in there, really nicely done, and it really does make what was already a nice sounding synthesizer just open up into a new world. Of course, would be nice to see some more of those mod destinations, as with... That's probably why I could say that for a lot of about the synthesizer, but really nicely integrated. Good job. Okay, let's take a look at the sequencer and arpeggiator. Get to that by pressing the sequence button. We'll start with press it again, get into the arpeggiator. We have to press play on that, which I always forget. We've got various different modes, beat divisions, probabilities for kind of just a bit more randomization, swing. You may think there's no hold button, but actually if you press record while in this, you get... Let's to 60. So we can do both, right? Let's do that. It's pretty straightforward. You know, I don't know what else to say really. As an arpeggiator, it's perfectly fine. Okay, let's take a look at the sequencer. Just bringing that up here, bring this on. Get to that, pressing the sequencer button twice, toggles between all three positions. You then have to switch sequencer on. If you want to record something in there, we can go from 1 step up to 64 steps. Got beat divisions from 1 bar up to 32 triplets. Let's set that at 16, set this at, I don't know, let's go for 8. Let's drop that down a little bit, 8. Then we've got probability, swing and gate. To record, I just play something in. So I'm just gonna, you can play polyphonically in there up to 6 notes. I think I must have done 8 already. So I've got a nice bit of swing on that. I quite like that actually. So now I'm going to playing on the keyboard transposes that. And this is one thing that I kind of miss actually. I would have liked to be able to see a way to have the sequencer playing and then to be able to sort of riff over the top of it, but that's not possible. At least I couldn't find a way. Maybe I'm missing something. A couple of other things. You can't say, if we press play into record, we can't record any form of parameters in there as well. So it is quite basic. So I like the fact that they've just kept it simple. They haven't added too much complexity, trying to sort of cram all these kind of UI conundrums into this little display and, you know, faders and sliders that are designed for synthesis, not for sequencing. So you're probably thinking, what do I think? I really like the Artemis. It's got the essence of Dreadbox, which I love as a synthesizer. It's got the same sort of sonic qualities. It's got heritage from the Murmux and also the Erebus, which are my favourites of the Dreadbox instruments, but it's also got this great integration with the Sinevibes. It's a tough market at the moment at this price. It costs around about £1,000, so there's quite a lot of competition out there. But what you're getting here is a sort of more boutique and something with a lot of character and vibe. However, if you're after very specific features and a larger feature set and maybe more stuff for your money, then maybe this is not going to be the synth for you. But if you're looking for something that has character and just sort of speaks to you, I mean, obviously check to see if it does, then I can really recommend this. I do like Dreadbox and I like the Artemis. So thanks for watching. See you next time.